over this Veterans Day weekend, we'll have a number of celebrations throughout the greater West Bloomfield and Oakland County area, and one of those is happening right here in West Bloomfield and has quite an interesting story behind it. A peace memorial dedicated in 1972 by the Walnut Lake Women's Club was on the site of the former Walnut Lake Elementary School, closed in the mid to late 90s, and then slowly but surely that memorial less maintained over the years and was really hidden behind some brush and nature for quite a while before Steve Kay and Bert Green helped to restore it and reclaim it as the memorial that currently stands in place and will be rededicated on Saturday morning at its very location at 10:30 a.m. sharp. Joining us now to talk about the memorial and the rededication ceremony is Bert Green, a West Bloomfield resident on the Splash Live. Bert, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Travis. Good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to share the details about the event tomorrow and how things came to be.
Yeah, let's start with how things came to be, Bert, because it's a really interesting story behind this memorial. It was put up by a now no longer active club in our local community, and it stood there for a number of years, but with changes in our community, kind of went to the wayside for a while. So tell us the story about how you and how your friend Steve Kay ultimately found this memorial and restored it to its current state.
Sure. And again, thank you for having me. So, yeah, on the site of the former Walnut Lake School that has been a few things since then and is going to be the future home of the Chaldean Cultural Center, there was a peace memorial. And I think it's important to distinction what a peace memorial is when it was erected and what it means. So, earlier on that site, and this is on the site of Walnut Lake School, so it's basically Walnut Lake Road and Inkster Road across from the Ace Hardware and down the street from the Marketplace grocery store. There was this memorial that the Women's Club erected. First, the picture there is the original memorial from the 1940s, and then my understanding is that that was then relocated on the site when some construction happened, and they dedicated this memorial in 1972 from this now defunct Walnut Lake Women's Club. My friend Steve Kay and I happened to live in the neighborhood and drive up and down Walnut Lake Road, and we would see this area with shrubs and trees, and we didn't know what it was. Thank you for putting up that picture. If you were to drive by that, you would have no idea what is there. You can see behind it, there's a flagpole. So one day we took a walk and we looked behind there and we said, my gosh, this is some sort of peace memorial or veterans memorial. Why don't we clean it up? So one Sunday morning, without asking for permission, and I guess theoretically we were trespassing, we went back there for a couple hours on a Sunday morning and brought our chainsaws and our gardening equipment and our blood, sweat, and tears, and we cleaned it up and restored it to what we thought was original glory. Didn't know much about it then, but subsequently there's some great stories about how this came together and a small miracle when we raised the flag on the flagpole for the first time. And it's culminating in this rededication ceremony tomorrow morning, not only rededicating this memorial, but also celebrating Veterans Day and a special performance of taps at 11 a.m. to celebrate Armistice Day and discover what the poem is as well. So it's a great little story. It's unique property because it's not on West Bloomfield Township land. It's not a historical marker, but it does have significance in our local community. And hopefully from this moment forward, it will be part of our community as a memorial to not only peace, but also to our veterans and those that have served.
And restoring this was a great effort. It was recognized by the West Bloomfield Township government and by other media, including us, in the community back in June when this first was breaking, but now it's going to be rededicated on Saturday. And as you mentioned, this was the former Walnut Lake School location. It's been a couple of other entities over the years since the late 90s when the Walnut Lake School had closed, and it's soon to be the new location of the Chaldean Community Center. And so with a new ownership group taking over that land, just how welcoming was the team at the Chaldean Community Center to having that memorial remain in place as a historical marker and a marker of peace in our local community?
Yeah, it's been a great community effort. And I think in these times, we all need to come together, regardless of religion, background, race, or politics, anything like that. We need to support not only our local community and each other, but of course our veterans and any efforts we can make to make life more peaceful. So as soon as this started to happen, and it was basically, we did not know that they were going to knock down this structure as part of their reconfiguring their site for their community center. But as soon as the Chaldean Community Foundation got involved, Tom Haji, Martin Manna, Sharkey, whatever, they were extremely cooperative and accepting and appreciative of our efforts. They didn't know this was on the property, but as soon as they did, they said, of course, we want to keep it and save it. We honor our veterans. Chaldeans have had a long history of supporting and serving in our United States military. So they immediately participated and agreed to support our efforts. Not only in terms of allowing us on the property and letting the monument stay where it is in perpetuity, but also with some future financial assistance if we need it to maintain the site. We might try to put up some lights so they can project up on the American flag. West Bloomfield Township was fantastic. They got involved and helped us with some of the legal and logistic things to make this work. The Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society also stepped in to provide some background in the photos that you have and provide some support for our ceremony tomorrow. Noah Arbit, our state senator for our state House of Representatives for West Bloomfield, will be there, and we have his support from the Michigan legislature. And this is a really feel-good story about everyone coming together with no focus on cost and no focus on getting credit or things like that. But we all came together to do this for our community and to honor those veterans that have served. So it's been a great cooperative effort. We've all very pleased and honored. I'm expecting a very large turnout at the ceremony tomorrow, and it's a great way for all of us to come together, especially in these difficult.
Yeah, and it's a great effort, and it really has been a community-wide effort to not just restore this memorial, but to rededicate it. It was something that was brought up really from the jump when this was restored, that at some point we want to have a rededication ceremony, whether it was on Memorial Day or on Veterans Day. Of course, it's now going to be on Veterans Day proper on Saturday, November 11th. Bert, tell us about this event, when it starts, and what we can expect from the rededication ceremony happening on Saturday.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and you know, the timing was surreptitious. It really, everything worked out to come together. So in the United States, it used to be called Armistice Day, but there's a deep honoring and respect, and it goes on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. Allies signed an armistice agreement and effectively ending World War I. And then for many years, we celebrated as Armistice Day. And it's interesting in doing some research for that, armistice comes from the Latin word of still arms, not your human arms, but weapons, to keep your weapons still and keep them down, to lay down your weapons and pursue peace. And so then in 1954, President Johnson changed it to Veterans Day, and it's been a national holiday ever since. So the timing worked out great. Not only could we rededicate this memorial dedicated to peace and those that served in the West Bloomfield and Greater Michigan and Oakland County area, but we can also combine that with Veterans Day. I did not serve in the military, but my father was in the Navy in World War II, and I was raised with a deep respect for those that serve in our armed forces and those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. You can see my hat. Folds of Honor is one of the organizations I support by playing my trumpet at the funerals of fallen soldiers and their family members. There's also Taps Across America, where I also play taps to honor that. And Veterans Day, it's called a national salute, where you play the bugle at cemeteries, at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and you use those brief few moments to pause and reflect on those that have sacrificed for our country. So the ceremony is tomorrow, Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. sharp, on the site of the memorial, which again is on the southwest corner of Inkster and Walnut Lake Road. You can't miss it. The Chaldean Community Foundation has graciously agreed to provide some refreshments. So we'll have some coffee and bagels and donuts and cider and some water. And then at 10:30 a.m., we're going to start a ceremony. We have several public speakers, myself and Steve, representatives from the Chaldean Community Foundation, representatives from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, representatives from West Bloomfield Township, Noah Arbit, and then we're going to have some war veterans or military veterans speak about the importance of it. At precisely 11 a.m., I will play the trumpet off to the side, and we will have a moment of silence for those that have sacrificed for our country. And then there'll be some additional remarks about the future of the site, and we'll wrap things up. So it should take about 45 minutes. It's open to the public, free of charge, no donations, no solicitation. Bring a camp chair or a chair if you wish to sit. But it'll be a nice little ceremony. We'll talk about how we cleaned up the site. The flag is already raised, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then I'll have some information about ways you can support veterans groups and support local charities involved in peace efforts in the West Bloomfield area. So I encourage everyone to come out. The weather looks chilly but nice. Parking is available on site, and we will have availability to answer any questions you might have.
And we will be there as well. It won't be broadcast live, but it will be broadcast, as we say in the business, live to tape. So you will be able to see that ceremony later on in the day and throughout Veterans Day weekend. Bert, we thank you so much for joining us today. Anything else that we should know about this new rededicated memorial or future efforts that may be going forth in this sort of way?
Sure. So there was a small miracle that happened when Steve and I raised the flag for the first time in perhaps 30 years. The rope that kept the flag attached to the flagpole snapped, and the flag should have come crashing down. But instead, and this is truly a miracle, the rope wrapped itself around the pole and somehow formed a little knot, and the flag is flying to this day, inexplicably with the cord not being attached. And when you get to the site tomorrow, you'll immediately be able to see this rope flapping in the wind and a flag suspended 30 feet in the air that should not be in the air because of gravity, but it is. So we're going to touch on that miracle. We believe there was maybe someone was watching over us or a higher power. And again, I'm going to have more information at the memorial, at the rededication, about ways that you can get involved with your time, with your energy, with your money, if you want, to support not only local charities, but also our veterans that surround us. So it's a great sort of feel-good story that all of us came together, and I'm just so thrilled and honored that I could be a
Bert, we thank you very much for your efforts restoring this Peace Memorial in our community, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the Peace Memorial's rededication in West Bloomfield. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Travis. And I want to thank you for your support and for coming out to tape the event. And I look forward to seeing the broadcast and supporting your efforts as we spread the word of this great project. Thank you all so much. God bless.